So the Porsche Macan is one of our best of 2019. With me today in the AutoX studio is Pavan Shetty, Director, Porsche India. Pavan, welcome. Congratulations on the success of the Macan.
Thank you so much.
So obviously the Macan drives like a proper Porsche and that's why it's one of our best of 2019 and one of our favorite cars. But it's also very attainable now, well, relatively attainable now that you've relaunched the car in 2019 in terms of price point. So how do you convince people that a Porsche is relatively attainable? Because you think Porsche and you think like ultra exclusive and very expensive. So that must be a tough challenge for you.
So yeah, you're right. There is a general perception that Porsche is or at least was expensive.
Yeah.
Not just at the buying stage, but also there were questions about how would it be to really maintain a car. Yeah. So with the new pricing, it's not just about acquiring the car, but we also launched the maintenance schedule, where for just 4 years service on consumables, you pay as less as just 1.5 lakhs for 4 years. And if you want a full package with wear and tear items, it's only 5.5 lakhs for 4 years, which is, so it's around 1.35 lakhs per year. And this goes to say that this car is really comparable to a few of the premium brands which are there, but you really can own a luxury car and also not just own it but also maintain it quite easily.
So before Porsche, you were head of Lamborghini in India. Which is your favorite, Lamborghini or Porsche?
First of all, I think both the brands belong to the group. Yeah. Both of them obviously are great. Yeah. But not really talking about this or that. I think both really satisfy a different need of a prospect. When I look at Porsche specifically, I think this is a car that you can really drive on an everyday basis, even from an Indian context, be it a 911 or a 718, and I mean Macan, Panamera or a Cayenne obviously are an everyday car. But I've seen a 911 driven up to 100,000 kilometers, and this is something which goes to say that this car is really usable. And I'm not even talking about this car being in metro. It is not even in a metro. It is somewhere in the south of India, and he's a passionate Porsche owner and he drives it almost every day. And the more I've started meeting customers, the more I realized that it's quite common to find cars done now 30,000 kilometers, 35,000 kilometers. And this was not the case a few years back. So I think people are warming up to the idea of driving a Porsche as an everyday car like it is everywhere else in the world. And this is also happening in India.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, one of the things we said with the Macan was that it's the perfect sports car for India because it's so usable. But actually the 911, one of the reasons why it's so popular, other than the fact that it drives phenomenally, is that you can use it every day. So, I mean, it's good to hear that even in India, now there are people who are starting to do that and to use it every day.
Absolutely. And this is what I keep telling everyone I meet. I said, if you can afford a Porsche, and if you don't buy it in your lifetime, you really do not know what you're missing in life.
And from a commute standpoint and usability standpoint, is the lack of diesel hurting you? Are you finding that that's a concern?
So we were not sure when it started off. A good litmus test was the diesel ban in Delhi. Yeah. And because of our agility from a size perspective, we could quickly provide with the petrol powertrain. And it was quite well accepted in Delhi. I think that is where we had a hope that we are not diesel dependent. Yeah. The brand stands for a fantastic ownership experience, a great driving experience. And if a drivetrain were to decide that, it would be not the right way to describe the brand. So the drivetrain is more from a cultural perspective, has been there in the country for various reasons, and that reasons are diminishing right now. Even if you see the fuel mix from automobile perspective in India, it is moving towards petrol, and that is being true, absolutely true in case of Porsche. So when we decided to move from diesel, we were absolutely sure that there might be some delays because there are hardcore pockets in the country which are diesel. They might take time, but when the word of mouth spreads that there is no difference, in fact petrol or hybrid or electric is so much better to be driven or driving, you tend to warm up. And then I've seen not many people who go back towards that powertrain.
And what is your favorite car of the Porsche lineup?
It's a very difficult question, honestly. Depends. See, personally, I'm also a hardcore car guy, and always grown up thinking about a 911 someday. And I hope that dream comes true. Just from a driving perspective, it has to be a 911. And that rear engine, the way it behaves on a corner, that joy I don't think any other car has given me. But if you talk about the weight distribution and then you get into 718, you do it in a technical track and you realize what a mid-engine car can really do for you. It is brilliant, and then no other car can really match it. Then I happened to drive a Macan and I realized what does a sports car feel on an SUV chassis. It is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant, and we took pride in giving test drives on a racetrack. And I said, does it behave anything different from any of the sports cars? And everybody completely agreed. And Macan S actually drives like a very fast sports car, 370 horsepower. And Cayenne, obviously, it's a full-fledged SUV. There are different driving modes. You put it in a Sports Plus mode on a nice road, it will give you actually a feeling very close to a sports car. And Panamera, obviously, I don't know if you had the chance to drive a Panamera Turbo.
It's crazy.
Even on a racetrack.
It's crazy.
I think it is brilliant. So when you have a lineup like this, it's very difficult to really choose. I mean, it depends on the occasion, number of people you have, what mood is it, and you can choose a car for your life.
And you mentioned 911 being rear engine. I mean, for me, even in the 718 and the 911, the great thing about those cars is that the howl of the intake and the exhaust, everything is coming from behind you, and the revs build all the way to the red line. There's so much emotion involved. How do you replicate that kind of emotion? Because the Taycan, the EV, it's got amazing performance figures. How do you get that kind of emotion into a model like that? I mean, because at the end of the day, it's a Porsche.
So I really think whenever something new comes, it would be even same for, I believe, when the 911 came, 911 Turbo came with a rear engine and everybody else was in front. People would have had their share of doubts as how would this car really drive with a rear engine? Is it really possible, not possible? And then people get into it, they drive it. This is how the journey is. You have doubts, then you have naysayers, then you're okay to experiment, and then you fall in love. I've gone through this journey myself. I had an opportunity to drive the Taycan, and I'm telling you, what a brilliant piece of, can't even say engine, what a brilliant piece of machine it is. It is brilliant. And I drove it on a racetrack, I drove it on a road. The connection is so direct, you really enjoy it. And a Porsche is known by, I mean, if diesel should not make a difference, I think even electric should not make a difference. Except for the sound perspective. Because at the end of the day, you're buying into a character of a car, which all Porsches will always have. So you throw a Taycan into a corner and it is not different from any other car of a Porsche would ideally behave. To top it off, on a road, even at a speed of 100, when you push it, you have an immediate response from the car. It is not showing any signs of tiredness. The only thing somebody might miss is the sound of the car, but we've created our own sweet electric engine sound in a Taycan. And it is really futuristic. You spend some time in the car and you warm up the idea of an electric sports car, which is a Porsche.
So is it coming to India?
I think it should next year. Ideally, yes. Because from my perspective, I think Indian customers are ready to experiment with technology, and we might be the first one to bring a electric car in a sports car segment. I mean, all Porsches are sports car. That's how I'd like to really place it. And we already have interest in that car from a consumer point of view. We're already working towards preparing ourselves for the Taycan. For example, in some hotels, we've already have charging infrastructure. Our dealership will be fully equipped to charge a car. We'll have 2 charging units for a customer, one at home, one at office. And we believe, at least to start with, our customers would not really drive maybe intercity. And the size of the country we have and the size of the company we are in, it is impossible to really provide an infrastructure throughout the country. So we will also be dependent largely on the government to come out with a solution also for our segment in that case.
Talking about your segment, I mean, the market as a whole is not, sentiment is not great at the moment, and it hasn't been for some time. Does it affect your segment of the market as well?
So I think it's wrong to really say that we are insulated from what's happening in the market. But when you say market sentiment is also an outcome of emotion. Think about us. There are things that we've been wanting to buy for the longest time. The external environment might not be so good, but if it's so important to you, you always take the plunge. Yeah. Not all of us do, but some passionate ones will still do it. The others would say, okay, let me wait. The question is never that should I not. The question usually is when. But for our good, maybe call it a good planning or a good timing, we had the Macan at a really good time, and the response has been fantastic to this car. So we are very encouraged with the way our prospective consumers have looked at it, and they completely appreciate the entire package now.
Cayenne Coupe we drove a couple of weeks ago. Great car to drive. Again, in terms of character, it's all Porsche. That's coming soon. What is the product plan going forward for 2020? What's the plan for the next year?
So we will bring in the Cayenne Coupe as early as next month, launching in India. Then obviously we'll start preparing for the launch of Taycan next, and that would be for us the biggest launch, not just from a terms of volume, but also to show the country that what is Porsche all about. We do not shy away from experimenting new technologies, and when we experiment something, we make sure that it is a true Porsche. And I'm sure many people in India are really watching out for that space to see what is Porsche come out with, and I think they will not be disappointed.
And what is the future of the 911 in relation to being hybrid or electric, or how does it the life cycle play out going forward?
So I think when the 911 was developed in this generation, there is a provision for a hybrid version, but right now we have we really don't know what might come, might not come. We'll have to look for future, what comes in as a surprise.
And have you had a chance to ask your engineers how they managed to make the 911 better with each generation? Because every new generation of the 911, we say that this is like the epitome, it can't get better from here. And I had a chance to drive the new 911 on the track, and we were following one of your instructors who was in a GT3, and being able to keep up with the GT3 with the front end just feeling incredible. I mean, I don't know how they do it generation after generation, so it's kudos to your generation.
I'm as surprised as you are, because even when I was driving the last 911, 912, I was wondering what could improve, because I was really having fun with this car. Then I had this opportunity to drive it in United States, where it was launched for the entire network, and I thought this is a completely different car. It has a wet mode, it drives on a track completely different, the traction is completely different, the steering is different. And while not a lot of people really understand from the exterior what might have changed, obviously there's a big change also in exterior, but it's only when you really drive it you realize what has changed in the car. And it is so much grounded, and you put off the electronics and behaves completely different. It's like 4 or 5 cars in one car.
And have you got a good response in India since the launch?
Absolutely. I think this car is also something which takes time to build up. People need to drive it, they need to keep it over a weekend for them to really realize what are they getting into. And I think with the brand name that 911 has in India, it is not a very big challenge. So just to add to it, we had the best year last year with 911. The outgoing year was the best year. So I'm hoping the new year with the new car is even better.
And do you see signs of the market picking up?
I think it's too early to talk about it, Dhruv, honestly, because there are some recovery packages offered by the government, but with the size of the country we are, it's not just easy to either move either sides. It takes time, and you go in slowly towards a bit of challenges, you also come out slowly with any level of recovery packages. So I think we'll have to wait and see when does it happen, but I'm extremely hopeful that there would be a change. There is a recognition that there has to be, there is a need to really move in that direction. I think the government is doing its best to help the entire industry.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I hope we see lots of more new Porsches on the road
I hope so too,
in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.